Hi. So last time in one of these videos, I talked about how to send out markets. And I promised that this time I would drill down a little bit on how to evaluate markets. And I'm going to try and keep this to under 10 minutes because I'd like to keep these videos fairly short. So let's see how far I get. So what are the places that I go and find markets? I want to give you a couple good starting points. And to do this, I'm going to screen share. All right. Okay, so this is Rollin.com. As you can see, one of the charms of Rollin.com is it looks like it's been around since the 80s. It has been around for a really long time. And the guy keeps it updated. Rollin keeps it updated and sorts things. And you can see that he's got pro markets, semi-pro, pay, token, and all of that. So that works very well. Another good one is the submission grinder. The submission grinder will let you search on various markets. I think they're swell. Both of those are free services, but if you use them, please pay for them, or at least, kick the people who run them a couple of bucks every once in a while. Other places to find markets. One is that SFWA, the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America, does put out a monthly market report, which is actually put together by the guy who handles the submission grinder, Dave Steffen. So there's going to be some overlap there. There's also a list of SFWA qualified markets, and I'll leave the discussion of what that means for another time. But another place that you can look for markets is often if you pick up best of the year anthologies and look in the back, you will find there's honorable mentions as well. And if you look to see where those stories came from, it'll give you some idea of where people are getting stuff published. So the thing that I wanted to talk about is how you go about evaluating markets once you've found them. And I do suggest with a short story that you have 5 or 6 markets ready to go. So here's how I evaluate them. I'm not going to say you should evaluate them in the same way. Different factors work for different people. But here are the things that I think about. First of these is pay, right? I'm a working writer. I want to get paid for my work. So I do look at the pay rate, and the higher the pay rate, the better. If it is not work for hire where they're buying all the rights. So I want to be selling the first publication rights to my short story and really not much else. Maybe the audio rights, possibly, quite probably the audio rights, but not much beyond that. Okay, so I'm looking at pay rate. I'm looking at response time. That's number 2 on my list. I think it is discourteous to tie up a story for a long time because that's part of a writer's inventory. They're trying to sell it and they need a decent turnaround. So on my projects, I try to have a decent turnaround. I think that's important. 3, and this is listing these in order of importance. Exposure, right? Is this a magazine with a huge circulation? Is this a magazine that's going to get my stuff in front of a market that's never seen it before? Is it going to get it into new readers? That's kind of cool. But I don't send stuff out just for exposure, and I urge you not to either. Pick the highest, the most prestigious, the best markets first and submit to those first. I know I said that last time. Bears repetition. Okay, so exposure. So those are kind of the things that I'm thinking about, but other stuff that you may want to think about. Prestige. Is this a long-standing market? I was very happy when I got something in Asimov's or in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction in Weird Tales, because with Weird Tales, I felt like I was part of a very proud tradition. Other considerations. Is it a charity project? Maybe in that case, pay is not so important because you're not getting it. Or maybe they are paying you, though it's a charity project. But is it something that you would feel good to give a story to? Okay, so all of those come into play. So let's talk about when you might rule a market out. So, and all of those factors, right? No pay, or an incredibly long response time, or it only goes to 6 people in the whole world. Who knows? All of those are things that you're thinking about, but you may want to think about problematic markets, right? There are markets where sometimes people self-reject from them, or not self-reject, but just sort of like, yeah, I don't want to be published there. And so that's your rule of thumb there, basically. That's my rule of thumb. Is this a place that I would feel proud and happy to be published? Is this a place where I would feel, comfortable announcing to my group of friends, hey, I got a stuff in magazine X? Is it a period and a place where you feel happy about having your name attached to it? And if it's not, then don't submit to that market. That is my advice about that. So there you go. Closing things, before you send, go read issues of the magazine if possible. Really, really do that. And that will give you an idea for what their taste is like. It'll give you an idea for what they've run recently. If they've run a story that's very close to one of yours, you may not want to submit it because they may be like, hey, this one's just like that one we ran 3 months ago. If it's anthology, right, that's harder to do. But in that case, you look at the editors, you look at other anthologies that they've edited, you look at other, magazines, if they've edited magazines, and you may look at their social media presence to get a feel for them. Okay. And that's another thing. That's one more factor as far as magazines go. There may be an editor that you love working with, or an editor that you really want to work with. I know I have 2 or 3 editors where I'm always happy to work with them. I actively seek them out because I really enjoy working with them because they're such good editors and they make my stuff really shine. So shout out to Liz Gorinsky, who was the first editor of this kind I ever encountered, who worked beautifully with my story Clockwork Fairies and made it much better. All right. I think that is everything that I wanted to say in this. I hope that is helpful. I will put links in the description. Please feel free to ask questions in the comments. And as always, check out the Rambo Academy for Wayward Writers if you want more good stuff aimed at writers. All right. From broadcasting to you from the heart of chaos, we just moved. So farewell.